Hi, everyone, and welcome to this interiors and design trend report for 2025 from Press Loft. I'm Nikki Snell, the founder of Press Loft, and I'm here today with Amy Pulan, who's our marketing assistant and looks after all things trends on the site. So, before we kick off, I just thought I'd explain a little bit about how we find our trends. So, we're lucky enough to have 20 years of media search data on Pressloft of what they're searching for, what keywords are going on, what images are being downloaded, and we can see certain patterns historically. So, for example, we've got a growing interest in sustainable furniture over the past 10 years. Similarly, smart homes have been growing in popularity over the past 5 years. And then there's also cyclical and seasonal media interest. Then in shorter term data, we've got searches with sudden spikes in popularity. We've got clusters of search related topics, and we've got newly emerging niche search terms which just appear. And then we'll look into those in a bit more detail. We also look at on the client side, vast amounts of products coming onto the market. So about 15,000 products are added each month to our platform. And we can see again clusters of certain product types coming on, or maybe certain colors. And this helps us internally inform what we think is going to be popular in the press. Then we also do wider industry research. So various platforms like Pinterest Predicts is absolutely fantastic. Research around fashion shows and the fashion industry, and maybe other key influences in the industry as well. And all this pulls together. And this year we've defined 11 key standout trends that we think are going to be very popular next year, both in consumers and therefore in the press. So this can help inform PR strategies and also help media to define what they might want to write about over the next 12 months. Then, in terms of accuracy of our trends, so about 10,000 product images are downloaded each year from our trend pages, and just those trend pages themselves. That leads to around about 5,000 pieces of coverage, again, just from those trend pages, not to mention or take into account the number of searches that go on more widely across Pressloft. So we do feel that we have a lot of influences to what is written, and therefore it can be really useful as a way to decide on PR strategy for the year.
Mhm.
So without further ado, Amy, do you want to kick off with trend number one?
Absolutely. So the first trend on our list is mahogany, and this is one of our key color picks for 2025. This trend, along with some of the others we'll be showing you today, they all mark this clear shift away from cooler gray or grayish tones that we would have seen a lot of over the last decade, specifically like mid 2010s-ish. And instead, a lot of people are embracing these really deep, earthy colors, and mahogany is just a brilliant example of that. With this particular deep red brown shade, it strikes a balance between being bold yet still very versatile for people looking to adopt it in their existing scheme. It's stunning on larger design elements like sofas or wall tiles or wallpaper, but it still works really well with like beautifully chosen accent pieces like decorative bowls, statement shades or candlesticks and frames, things like that as well. It's the kind of color that ties in really easily with existing color schemes, and with consumers now focusing on quality and longevity and just thoughtful design that's more likely to stand the test of time, this is definitely the kind of color that they're more likely to bank on, strictly because it's very timeless and cozy. It's not likely to fall out of fashion dramatically in the next year or two. And for me, I'd say it's quite a glamorous shade of brown as well. It feels really rich and luxurious, especially when you pair it with elements of, say, gold or brass, which just work in tandem to dial up that warmth and sophistication within a space.
Mm.
So it's definitely one to keep on your radar for next year. Then next up, we have on display, which is one of our key styling trends for the year as well. So this trend is all about celebrating the things we love rather than tucking them away out of sight and out of mind. So collectively, over the last few years, we've definitely moved away from minimalism, especially the very sterile forms of minimalism that we would have seen a lot. And instead, we're embracing really eclectic, personality-driven spaces, and this is a brilliant example of that. The idea here is to showcase our belongings in a way that's still organized, but still quite stylish. So it turns our favorite items into key elements of our personal interior design style rather than pushing them out of the way. As a part of this trend, consumers are then embracing things like open shelving, curated display cabinets, as well as maybe more intricate wall-mounted display pieces, just so they can really utilize whatever space is at their disposal to show off their favorite things. Um, It's seen almost as if curating your own personal gallery. So, taking things like books from your childhood or little pieces of artwork and prints, maybe even little trinkets, things like that all come together to be part of this overall visual experience. And this trend is really about merging form with function. So, you get a space that feels very fresh and intentional, but it still keeps things quite practical and organized. So, it's not all over the place. And what I really love about this trend is that it taps into this growing desire for people to feel more connected to the things that they own. So it's about celebrating these pieces that have specific memories or meanings behind them as these all work together to create a personal story within your space. Then next up, we have denim blue, which is another one of our key colors for 2025, and it's a personal favorite of mine as well. So I'm very excited to show this one off. So a few years ago, during the chaos of the pandemic, we definitely saw this very obvious shift towards very muted colors. Think neutrals, those gray and grayish tones that we mentioned, as well as maybe muted pastels for those looking for a little bit of color in their space. Mainly because during that time, these hues offered a sense of calm and comfort during this uncertainty. And then over the last few years, we've swung to the complete opposite end of that spectrum. So with the Barbie movie coming out, we had this onslaught of pink everywhere, from runways to interiors. And then this summer in particular, we've seen this rise of Brat Green, thanks to Charlie XCX's new album. Um, Now, however, we're seeing indicators that show consumers are moving more towards balanced mid-tone hues, things like burgundies, terracottas, or in this case, denim blue. So these shades, they're still bold enough to stand out and make a big impact within your space, but they feel a little more grounded and approachable for first-time use, especially if you're only just dabbling in a little bit of color in your space. So it makes them quite versatile depending on how you want to use them. Denim blue in particular has a very comforting, familiar feel to it. So it can be quite polished or more casual depending on how you weave it into your space. And what's great about mid-tone colors is that they can still pack a great punch, whether they're incorporated through small accent pieces or adopted on a larger scale. So if consumers want to dip their toes in and experiment a little bit, it's great for like little accent pieces like throw pillows or lamps or little ceramics scattered throughout a space. But if they want to transition into larger applications, it's great for sofas, cabinetry, painted walls, things like that as well. Now, I would say for some people who really want, if they love a color and they want to tap into it to the nth degree, then the next trend is one that they might want to look into for 2025, which is color drenching. So it is very dramatic and it might not be for everybody, but it's definitely the kind of trend that's been generating a lot of buzz in recent months, and we expect it to play a major role in 2025. So this trend is all about embracing a single hue and saturating an entire space with it to create a really dramatic, cohesive look. So what's interesting about this shift is how it offers a really fresh alternative to traditional minimalism, which again dominated for quite a long time. So with color drenching, it brings color and character and confidence into a space, but it still maintains this sense of cohesion within it. So for example, imagine a living room drenched in really rich terracotta shades from the walls or rugs, maybe upholstery or little decor elements like candlesticks. Um, it really envelops a space and creates a really gorgeous color palette. Uh, the one thing to keep in mind when it comes to actually adopting this trend and maybe pulling it off is to play around with texture. So matte finishes against more glossy accents, using velvets paired with more natural fibers. You can also play around a little bit with shade, like subtle shade variations, so long as they all tie into that main overarching color story. Just by layering like this, it means that the space doesn't feel flat or overwhelming and it actually gets the desired impact. Um, for brands, one thing I would say is this trend offers up a lot of opportunities for your own products, whether it's launching collections in tonal ranges or maybe offering curated bundles to make it easy for consumers to commit to one particular color story. For example, later on this week, Pantone's announcing their color of the year, and so one of the ways brands might want to tap into that is curating products that match and putting them all together for brands to, or consumers to find really easily. And then when it comes to the media side of things, of course, it's just a beautiful story to be telling. It really pops whether it's in digital features or in print. So it's definitely one to look out for your 2025 features.
Lovely, thank you very much. And now the first one from me, that's warm neutrals. They have been growing slowly in popularity over the past year, and they're going to boom in 2025 as colours get even warmer through this palette. So, as Amy mentioned, there's been such a huge shift over the past year or two away from greige and grey tones, those cooler, more almost sterile tones. And now we're seeing this lovely, warm, cozy, inviting palette coming in. So in terms of that palette, we're looking, as you can see on this lovely mood board, some soft beiges, terracottas, those lovely caramel tones. On the lightest end of the scale, we've got creamy off-whites. And this all merges to very yellow tones. And I think they could even go even yellower over the next year. So this palette pairs really beautifully with natural materials. So think woods, as you can see here, some rattan, stoneware, earthenware. And then the one thing to remember about this, though, is to stop these neutrals from feeling flat. It's important to mix this natural texture. So think boucle, linens, plaster effect walls, those sorts of things really add some depth to it. The last thing to say about this is that it's so versatile. I mean, you can use this warm neutral tone and palette in any room. So a boucle armchair in the living room, perhaps like you can see here, a sandy tone wall in the bedroom, or perhaps a terracotta backsplash in the kitchen. It really can go into any room and therefore any article around any room. So a big one for next year.
Mhm.
And next up, we've got wireless LED table lamps. So these are flooding onto Press Loft from clients adding them on, going to be really big in all sorts of articles, very much about the practicalities of them. So first of all, the feature is that they're cord free. So aesthetically, they're reducing clutter. They can be fantastic for shoots because you don't have to worry about cords as well. They're very portable, so you can position them anywhere. But importantly, in terms of article generation, they can be moved between rooms. And I think the indoor-outdoor concept and articles are going to be very popular in the summer months. So if you do have anything that can be used and styled indoors and outdoors, I'd really recommend doing that. There's an eco-friendly element to them in that they use a lot less electricity than standard table lamps. However, do be mindful that they're not perfectly eco-friendly and because of the battery element. So if you know anything about them, if you can add this into your press releases, do you do any recycling initiatives there? Do mention that if you are doing press releases around them. Then another part of the functionality is that some of them have smart technology. So do mention all of this in your press releases. So are they controlled via an app? Do you have adjustable lighting setups? Can you schedule perhaps? Are there voice commands? Maybe some color temperature adjustments. Make sure all of that is in the press material because these ones make for more detailed, more technical articles, and the journalists will want all this information ready to hand. And then in terms of styling, just one more thing to mention. Any style goes with this. So you've got these lovely traditional lamps that you can see here from Pookie right through to the modern 70s style from places like Black by Design. So anything goes with those ones. Then in terms of the 70s style, the next trend that's one of my probably my standout favorite for 2025 is this revival of the 70s cabin aesthetic. And as you can see here, it's so warm, it's nostalgic, it's cozy and inviting. One of the key elements to this is panelled walls, which are coming back. And there's a lot of earthy tones there, as we've seen through the warm neutral palette as well, but this is much deeper and richer tones. And the other distinctive feature is that there's a lot of yellow oak being used, which is a huge shift from years and years of Nordic oaks being the real key wooden choice for flooring and furniture, whereas yellow oaks are really coming back. So do feature them in press releases if you have them. And so there is a retro design element. You can have some kitsch styling there, but it doesn't need to be kitsch. It can just be this sort of more relaxed and timeless take on it. I mentioned briefly about the palette, but in more detail, we've got terracottas, we've got olive greens, we've got mustard yellows. And in terms of some distinctive products, we've got credenzas, so these long, low sideboards, maybe some low profile sofas, sheepskin stools and rugs, those kind of things that add this 70s cabin vibe to the aesthetic. Next from me, we've got the wild side. So animal prints used to be a bit naff, but now they're really storming it into fashion and it's now moving into interiors. So it's a really fun way to add some playfulness, a little bit of personality into a space. It won't be for every brand, but where it is for you, you might be using classic leopard and zebra patterns, the very traditional known prints, but it might be a little bit more abstract. Or we can see here from some of these products, the soft, unusual palettes. So combining blush pinks and oranges, maybe some muted greens or even metallics in there. So lots of versatility. And people can use it in just a single cushion, like you can see here on the bottom right, or right through to huge murals and wallpapers, like you can see here as well, or even upholstered furniture. So one reason these are going to be really popular in the press because they are really versatile. So from a luxe sort of maximalist, glamorous element to adding a bit of depth into a neutral area or a bit of interest in a contemporary minimalist space as well. So it can be used in all sorts of different setups.
Mhm.
And then I'm wrapping up with digital detox corners. So there's so many conversations, me personally included, about reducing screen time, both in children and adults. And there's a real need to unwind more often from the digital world. It's about creating spaces in your home designed to disconnect. And this is going to be a big popular topic in the press as well. So definitely worth doing PR around. So exactly what is it? So it's a cozy tech-free zone. You can recharge without the buzz of screens. It's about carving out space to focus on analog activities, so things like reading, journaling, crafting. And overall, it's just a calm, inviting space. You can see really neutral palettes here. So just a way to chill out and relax. So what goes into these corners? So we've got reading nooks and two lovely designs here, some styling shots where you can really sense that there's lots of books there, lots of comfy, cozy sofas and cushions. You can also promote analog activities, anything from puzzles, sketchbooks, record players, crafting, like we've mentioned. There's a lot of texture that goes into this. So cozy throws, chunky knit blankets, floor cushions. Then lighting's really important here. So soft lighting, candles, lanterns, warm toned lamps. And then lastly, you can add in those natural elements. So plants, planters, wooden accents, maybe some stone features as well.
Mhm. Okay, so moving on to the last two for the booklet for now, at least anyway. We now have Hope Core gifting, and this is a trend all about celebrating meaningful connections and just romanticizing elements of the day-to-day for ourselves or recipients as well. So I know Nikki was talking about detoxing from the digital sphere, but we have to note that this particular trend originated in the digital sphere, particularly on TikTok. So it's the kind of trend that rose to fame on the app, reflecting this shift in focus towards more positivity, gratitude, optimism, and just those little moments that make life a little bit brighter. And this sort of rose in response to just chaos and challenges of recent years. So it serves as a reminder to take time to appreciate the little things in life. And in gifting, we're seeing this translated through playful designs, uplifting typography, just fun, feel-good products that are intended to spark joy in the recipient. Aside from these very energetic colors and designs, though, there's a real emphasis on meaningful gifts. So, mementos, tokens of appreciation, or just something just because to give someone a little lift. Think vibrant prints to brighten up their space if they've just moved, a cheeky card with a heartfelt message to brighten their day, or a beautifully designed keepsake that they can take with them for years to come. So, for the media, I would say this particular trend offers an opportunity to dive into the real feel good aspect of gifting rather than just the traditional gifting features of gift guides for Christmas or Valentine's or price-based gifting, as well as just diving into, the roots of Hope Core as a trend. At its heart, it's a celebration of connections that make life better, and how that reflects in our gifting choices might be a really good angle to take with your features. And last but not least, then for now, we have Kitschy Kitchens. And this is all about injecting a bit of fun and a bit of playfulness into what many would refer to as the heart of the home. So kitchens have always been very functional spaces, but they're now more than ever becoming places where personality can shine through, especially for any consumers living in like smaller apartments or open plan living spaces where they're trying to make the most out of whatever space is at their disposal. So Kitschy Kitchens in particular brings a very playful take on retro designs. So weaves in bold colors, quirky patterns, and a lot of standout details like old school checkerboard styles, which I love. I love seeing checkerboard
Mhm.
tiling anywhere. Um, Really vintage style appliances or even like throwback accessories just to create a really eclectic mix within a space. The one thing I really love about this trend though is it's very flexible. It's not for everybody, so not everybody's going to want to go all out, but you don't have to go all out for it to make an impact within your space. So maybe it's weaving in a cherry red toaster and kettle set into your kitchen, maybe a quirky set of salt and pepper shakers for the table, or even like a statement wall with fun patterned tiles just to make it pop. It's all about those small touches that bring a bit of a smile to your face, as well as just making the kitchen feel more personal and inviting and homely. Um, like some of the other trends we've mentioned, this is another great nod to that consistent theme of nostalgia that we've been seeing in our interiors and in our gifting. So tapping into those mid-century aesthetics as well as like vintage inspired elements, but it makes sure to weave in like a fresh modern twist. So it makes sure that this particular look has a bit of a longer shelf life. It's less likely to fall out of fashion in like the next year or two very dramatically. It's something you can adopt and weave in your own way for a long time.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we had these 11 top 10 hitters for the trends, but there are some micro trends that we really wanted to mention because we think that they will be still featuring in articles over the next 12 months. So first of all, we've got colourful metallics, so pinks, blues and greens in accessories, perhaps in some lighting as well. And next, we've got picket tiles. So this elongated hexagonal style that you can see on the screen. Now, we did have metro tiles and those scalloped edge tiles for many years. And we think that this is the next big trend in tiles. But we didn't have any clients who'd added them, maybe two, I think. So we didn't have enough to do a mood board, which is why it didn't make the final cut. So definitely, if you are a client selling tiles, please do add them to Press Loft because we think they're going to be a real hit this next year. And the last one from me, just seeing it emerge in fashion. So I think maybe mid to end of 2025, this shadow florals idea is going to come into trends. So shadow florals means a floral design that looks soft and faded or silhouetted. And I think the silhouetted floral element will be the most popular aspect of this. So it's like the flowers are in the background or see-through or blurred. So if you do have anything like that, do keep an eye, do some shoots and add them onto Press Loft.
Mhm. And then a couple little ones that I came across during my research as well would be smoked glass, which we've referenced a little bit in some of our mood boards that you would have seen. And this might be adopted through very traditional smoky grays or those really warm ambers and browns as well. And it just adds, again, a little bit of a nostalgic element. It throws back to those 70s aesthetics that we mentioned, but it also adds a really nice dramatic element to a space, whether you're adopting it on a small scale, maybe just through drinking glasses for your iced coffees or wines and whatnot, or on a larger scale with maybe a statement chandelier, which I think would look beautiful within a space. Then the next one we have is murals or frescoes, and it's important to note this isn't novelty seasonal murals that you would maybe put up for, say, Christmas time and whatnot. This is something that's more permanent year round and it taps into more classic designs. It's basically people just using their wall space as a canvas and so allowing more artistic elements into their space, whether they're using just a statement wall or they're going all in and using the fifth wall, aka the ceiling, to really create this immersive space. And then finally, we have cinematic Americana. So in our last trend report for 2024, we definitely made a nod to the fact that Nancy Meyers aesthetics were gaining traction across Pinterest and TikTok. And if anybody's watched her movies, you know she has a very distinct look, regardless of whether she's tailoring it to the East Coast or West Coast of America. It has this very comforting, old school, rich feeling to it. But recently, we're seeing this continue to build momentum, but it's now being combined with very traditional Americana aesthetics of Ralph Lauren. So a lot of the terms thrown around are like old money, but while that leans into very luxurious and high end, there is a lot of cost-effective ways to tap into this look within your interiors. The fact that it's a very timeless look as well means that it is one to tap into for a long time. It's not something that's going to fall out of favor in the next year or two. So definitely one to keep on your radar for the next few months.
Lovely, thank you. So now you know the trends, what to do next. So first of all, we release weekly trend alerts. These can be macro or micro trends, and you can sign up for free at pressloft.com/app/trends. And these go out to about 10,000 people now. So they really are well received. So do recommend signing up for those. Then we have uploading your images. So if you do have anything that sits with these trends, do make sure that either you're taking photography of them, then uploading them. And if you already have these images on Pressloft, make sure they're tagged with the keywords that Amy's given at the bottom of each of those trends. do make sure that you're adding a variety of images for each of those items. So cutouts as well as lifestyle, because it's going to increase your chances of getting picked. Each journalist has a certain style that they're looking for. And so by having a variety, you're increasing your chances of getting picked. Then even if you don't have the perfect product for a trend, you might want to use elements of that in the styling. So say you sell cream sofas, you could bring mahogany elements into that styling to make it work for those trend articles as well. Then next, you can send out a press release. So if you do have relevant products fitting perfectly into those trends, I'd recommend sending a press release around them. Just make sure that the title of the trend is mentioned in the title of the press release, just to make it really easy for the journalist to find you. And you might also want to include some expert quotes within those press releases around the trends as well, to boost your chances of getting bigger styles of coverage. And then don't forget to set up your expert profile. It's the newest part of Press Loft. It can really help you position your brand as an authority in your industry or your field, and you can get quoted around these key trends and other topics that journalists are writing about. And if you are a media member watching, please do use the expert database or our media request service to source experts. So if you're watching this live, we're going to be sending you a link to download the PDF afterwards. And if you're watching this on playback, just use the link below and you can download the PDF report underneath. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Amy, for all of your amazing research. We hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for being here.